Welcome to Impact Makers Radio, helping you to find jargon-free information before choosing a professional to help solve your problems and live the life you love. And here's your host, Stuart Andrew Alexander.
Hi, and welcome to another Let's Talk Divorce conversation. And during this segment of the show, ladies and gentlemen, I have psychotherapist Alexia McLeod, owner of Therapeutic Center for Hope in sunny Wellington, Florida. Now, Alexia will be talking to you today about a very interesting topic. She's taking the time out of her busy day to come and speak with us about co-parenting with a narcissist. Now, that sounds very interesting, and I can't wait to find out what Alexia has to share with us today. So, if you're one of the increasing number of people looking for jargon-free information before seeking professional support, you might want to just stop what you're doing, find a quiet spot where you won't be disturbed, and listen in to what Alexia has to share with us today. So that said, she's a very busy lady, so let's not keep her waiting a moment longer. Welcome to the show, Alexia.
Hi, how are you? How's everybody doing?
I'm very, very good. I'm so happy to have you on the show. I know it's taken a while to get you here because you're so busy. So with that said, let's just jump feet first in then, Alexia. First of all, it goes without saying that anything you share with us today is not any form of legal assistance, legal advice, or therapeutic advice. It's purely for the purpose of disseminating information. Now, could you just please take a moment to expand on that in your own words so we're absolutely clear about what we're trying to achieve today?
Yes, today I'm here to talk about co-parenting with a narcissist, and obviously everyone's situation is different, but, I think it's really important to be able to put some information out there and for you to be able to decipher where you stand and what are going to be the best coping mechanisms that work for you.
Perfect. Thank you for that, Alexia. So, briefly, describe your company, the people who you serve, and the kinds of situations that they find themselves in when they initially reach out to you for your help.
Well, I own a therapeutic practice that it's a private practice. It's located here in Wellington, Florida, but we actually see people all over the country and sometimes outside of the country, just for the simple fact that, it's not a cookie cutter type of therapeutic practice. We meet our clients where we are, specializing in divorce, in co-parenting techniques and setting down boundaries, or teaching people how to set down boundaries and to be able to commute better in their lives as well, too. Typically, and I call it fortunate and unfortunate. I love it when my phone rings, but usually I don't say, how are you? Because when people are calling me, they're not at their best.
Yeah,
they're not at their best. Yeah. But you know what? One of the wonderful things about what I do is that I love to be able to walk people through and seeing that life is better on the other side. When we can set goals and when we can see what we would like to accomplish, then sometimes you just need somebody to help you to move along in order to get there. Because I believe that everybody in this world deserves the life that they were chosen here for. And sometimes we can get stuck and sit in things that have held us back for a long time. And sometimes it's not for 1 year or 2 years. I have clients that will call me and they're suffering because of things that happened way back in their past, maybe when they were growing up, or something that is so significant. However, they can't discern it. And it's to be able to find down and to find the root of what that issue is so that we can start to work it out. I have this saying, I said, you got to feel it before you heal it. So there's nothing wrong with feeling a little something and really recognizing it so that we can start to work past it.
Okay, so if somebody is interested in possibly working with you and they go online to do some research around what you do and your industry as a whole, there's lots of information out there, and it would be fair to say that maybe some of that information is not so accurate. So could you at least share what's one of the most common misconceptions surrounding the industry that you work in?
Well, one of the most common misconceptions is that, it's not for me now. And I am a true believer that, therapy is, it's not like, back in the day, people used to think it's passé. You shouldn't do it. It means that you're crazy if I reach out to a therapist. And the reality is therapy is something that is a commodity. Everyone needs to be able to talk. And many of us find ourselves in a situation as we learn and we grow that we feel uncomfortable with speaking to our friends or our family about certain issues in our life. And it's wonderful to have a third non-biased party that is in there to be able to assist you to disseminate what's going on in your life. Why is this an issue at this time? And to really work your way through to the other side.
What's the benefit of actually knowing about how to co-parent with a narcissist?
Well, many people, we have to really recognize many people that they believe that, when we're co-parenting, and they think about it as the traditional sense. When we're co-parenting with a narcissist, your mind has to switch to know that you're not only co-parenting or parenting with someone else, but you have to be able to really figure out what communication skills you need to have in order to communicate effectively, to set down appropriate boundaries and know how to live by them in this situation, because a narcissist is not necessarily looking to co-parent to make it easy for you, right? What a narcissist typically does is a narcissist they want to win by all means necessary, and they think of their children as an extension of themselves. And it's one parent or the other. And for them, it's always going to be them because they're going to win.
So what's the most common fear that you come across when people are co-parenting with a narcissist? And what do you recommend they do to get past that fear?
Well, one of the most common fears is that this person is making them look bad to their child. It's going to take everything away from them. Because there's a gaslighting that's been going on. There's, I will say it, the lies and the manipulation that's been going on for way long before you had the child. And now you have a child and, I'll give you an example of saying, the child goes for a visit. We send the child over for a visit and mom or dad, the narcissistic parent, says, oh, this kid doesn't want to come home with you anyways. My son wants to stay here. My son doesn't like you. My son, and all of these different things. These things are ringing in your ears and people become frustrated, as they should. Become frustrated, but it's so important in communicating with a narcissist that we keep our emotions in line. It's so important that we always remember that we have to be the healthy parent that is showing our child that it is okay to become frustrated, but there's also healthy ways to be able to express that and not in front of the child.
And tacking on to the back end of that question then, Alexia, when co-parenting with a narcissist, what do you think is one of the most unknown pitfalls that people should avoid, and what do you say in terms of how they can avoid that pitfall?
One of the biggest pitfalls that I see, again, it goes back to communicating and thinking that you can reason with a narcissist. You cannot. Because when somebody is in that mind frame, they love triggering you. They thrive on triggering you. And it doesn't matter whether the response is going to be a positive response or a negative response. They're looking for a really strong response from you. And every time they get that, it's like feet in the fire. So one thing that parents that are dealing with a narcissistic other parent need to learn is to be sure that you keep things to a minimum. Not just, obviously you're going to make sure that, your emotions are on an even keel, but I would say even speaking to them like you're having a business meeting, and not even just speaking, but to email, to text, to have things that are written down so things can't come back to you. Because oftentimes when co-parenting with a narcissist, somebody's going to say, the narcissist will say, you didn't say that, or we didn't have that agreement, or we changed this and you said this, and another form of manipulation. And it's important to have things in writing, to keep it as a business conversation. I will be there to pick up Johnny at 5, and even when they start coming back, if that's the case, that you just, you can refer back to, the court order says 5, I'll be there at 5, and that's it. So knowing when to back up.
So if they don't know when to back up, if they don't keep things to a minimum, what could be some of the worst case consequences of that? People
end up back in court. They end up back in court, and oftentimes I see that the non-narcissistic parent, they're trying to prove the narcissistic parent's diagnosis or that something's wrong with them. But what we have to remember is that for a narcissist, they are a master of disguise, and they're usually very charming on one side and very narcissistic on the other side. And again, it's a very difficult thing to prove in court if you end up back in court saying that, this person is having a negative effect on my child because of this. And you can try, but it's going to be very expensive. And if they charm the judge the same way they charmed many people and they charmed you in the beginning, then it's not going to be fruitful. So it's a difficult thing to carry. And it can cause more conflict with a child because a child wants to love both parents. You want to love both parents. So, and when you have a parent that's in there that is being manipulative, and it's kind of scary in some senses as well, too, because you see the behavior towards the other parent, it is oftentimes that the child may even side with the narcissistic parent for fear of what happens next.
How do you even recognize that your partner has narcissistic tendencies?
You know, I have this, I'm like, the only thing that is worse than being married to a narcissist is having a child with one. So if we can backtrack, and we can kind of look at certain things, you have to remember too that a narcissist, they know how to seek prey. And you'll hear me say very strong words when I'm talking about narcissism, because there's a certain personality type that they look for. You know, the people that are giving, the people that are, you know, sensitive to their needs, the people that they can groom in at the time and things seem fine. And, you know, it's going to be really, you know, important to be able to look if you're dating a narcissist or somebody that could be is after that honeymoon phase. And there's a honeymoon phase in every relationship that's 6 to 12 months, we call it. That if you start to see certain behaviors of gaslighting and manipulation and even extreme anger and them being triggered for little things and it coming out there, expressing their emotions in a way that doesn't seem as though it is normal to you, then it's important to look at that and to use dissemination, not only go back to when things were amazing in the beginning, but to say, is this something that's fixable? You know, talk to family and friends. Typically, narcissists, they have many superficial relationships, but not many real relationships, lifelong friends, people that have known them. They may even have alienated family. And you'll hear them talk about, oh, you know, this person did this to them. They're a victim in their head to everyone. And this is something that they truly believe. And a lot of times when dating, you know, a narcissist, you feel sorry for them, especially if it's a giving person, the people that they typically seek out, a giving person, a generous person. I'm not just talking about financially, I'm talking about emotionally, you know, then you will feel for this person, but it's important to not be swayed and to look for the signs.
So you're obviously very experienced in what you do then, Alexia. So when it comes to co-parenting with a narcissist, how does your service actually help somebody?
Well, what we do is we teach not just boundaries, but, you know, really having them define their boundaries and learning to communicate how to express them effectively. Also I work with attorneys as well, too, but in my field, you know, if we can work and just teach you these boundaries and keep you out of court, that's going to be a better and less expensive alternative.
Sure.
So, you know, learning to control, we call it emotional regulation. So as, you know, you can look at the narcissistic ex-partner and see how emotional deregulation is not good. You know, we have to be the parents that we want for our kids to look at and use as an example because the other side is not. So going through all of those things, we have to learn to choose our battles to rise above, you know, even looking at self-esteem, because many people's self-esteem is broken after a divorce and co-parenting with a narcissist. You know, so learning how to find your true self again and who you desire to be, you know, so that you can be able to parent your child effectively and not let this experience get you where you are right now.
So, Alexia, if you can help people in such a wonderful way, name 2 or 3 obstacles which might prevent someone from seeking the help of a professional like yourself.
Fear that if they do it, that it'll be another ploy that the narcissistic ex would be able to use against them. You know, another thing might be, you know, that something might be true. You know, what does it say about them? Internalizing the things that they've heard. Another example would be, you know, to be able to, I'm not sure if those are 2 good ones.
They are,
you know,
two
I think
good
that
ones.
those are 2 really good ones, you know, but I think, you know, it's number one, it's going to be fear of the unknown. And when we hear things, we could hear 10 good things about each other. I'm going to go 100 and somebody could say something that's not good and it would just go into our hearts. You know, take that step up and say that we have children and we're working to protect our kids. And knowing that our decision of being with our ex and creating a child with them was something that like is impacting even the child's life, it takes it a step up. So, you know, a lot of people after divorce and trying to co-parent with a narcissist or attempting to, it's heartbreaking. So you have to really find yourself, learn what parenting looks like to you, learn that, you know, what parenting is going to be. It's not traditional co-parenting. It's parenting in your home and parenting in the other person's home. Right. And being able to separate that to some point, because the consensus really is that you're not going to have that relationship with a narcissistic co-parent because you left. And after you leave a narcissist, things are just not the same because you're another person that abandoned them, that did them wrong, that they are going to, as long as they can trigger you, they're going to attempt to do so.
I'm thinking, is it possible that price could be an issue? Your fees or things like what others would think about them if the therapy failed, or maybe even some people think they can do it themselves. Did you come across that?
You know what? I think for many people, in this circumstance and in others, price is always going to be something that they think about. And what I would say to them is, you spent it in court and you're going to spend it again. Your mental health, it has no price. And if you have a licensed and qualified therapist that is working with you, you don't need to be in therapy for the rest of your life. You make an investment in you and in your kids to try to undo the bad that was done so that you can live the rest of your life effectively and be a great parent to your kid.
Right. I just want to circle back to earlier on during our conversation where you mentioned some people think that, taking therapy, am I crazy? And that may be something which may hold them back. I just want to expand on that a little bit because you and I are both people of African descent, right?
Yeah.
And I know within my community, which is a Jamaican community here in the UK, that going to see a therapist is not, it's kind of taboo, right? It's like, what? You want to see a therapist?
Yeah.
No, man, we don't do that. We're strong. We're strong. We don't need that kind of help. Is that something you come across? And if so, can you just expand a little bit for those 100%. People?
100%.
Right.
And I will tell you, my dad is Jamaican as well, too.
Okay.
And I will tell you that it is, I remember even when I was going to school, and I said that this is what I wanted to do. They said, no, you can't do that. You have to be, what is that? You have to be a doctor or a lawyer. Those are the only two professions.
There you go.
The only two professions. So, it's really important to look and see that. I am glad that people can see us. And even my family now, it's funny because they'll come to me for advisement on things or to, kind of bump off. And it's nice to know that things are starting to make a turn because no matter who you are, what culture you are, you have to know that you deserve more. You deserve to be heard. And therapy is about being heard and having the ability for you to process your stuff through. Yes, you have someone in. A great therapist is not going to tell you what to do, but they're going to assist you and really dig in deep to figure out and be able to verbalize and put to practice what is going to be the best plan for you so you can have the life that you deserve.
You're right.
Period.
And I'm a male, a black male. So that's taking it to another level now, right? Because us, males, apparently we're the dominant species and we're the protectors, and that's just not something we do. But, as I shared with you before we came on the show, I've had therapy myself because being a child of divorce and going through a divorce that was very violent, there was lots of blood, there was lots of fighting, there was lots of animosity there. That had a massive impact on me psychologically. And it took me until I was nearly 40 years old to realize the impact that it had on my life and the decisions that I made, going back to my education at school and how I conducted myself in school, and then the profession that I went into, they were a lot lower, beneath my actual capabilities because I just didn't believe that I was worthy of that because I was the one that was responsible for my parents breaking up. Those are the kind of things you think as a kid, and we carry those things on into our lives without realizing, unless we get help, that they're having an impact. So what would you say to the male listener out there who might be listening to this right now and thinking, I don't need this? What would you say about that?
What I would say to them is that, to your point, Stuart, is that things that have happened to us that are so significant, they are traumas, and they do absolutely affect every choice that you have made. They affect everything that's touched you. It affects every other choice that you've made. And why put yourself in a position? To me, it says that you are strong to be able to not just look at those things, but to be able to decipher, what about this was right and what about this was wrong, so that I can do a step up for my generation, for my kids, for my life, and make sure that I am accomplishing the things that I need to accomplish. Because all of us, and even if you didn't grow up with a narcissistic parent, there was something that may have happened at some point in your life that may make you feel less than. May make you feel as though you have to you have to go for only certain jobs, like, a doctor or a lawyer, like my parents said, or, for whatever else, or make you feel as though, you have to date within a certain person, or even, your normalcy was to be in this situation is to see your parents communicate and fight in a way that is not productive. That when you were little, if you were to revert back to your little self, to your 5, 6, even 10 or 15-year-old self, it wasn't something that was good. But what we find is that as time goes on, because this was our norm, we don't know how to communicate or to be able to have a healthy relationship with people. And it affects us in our work environments and our relationships with our children because we don't know different. And it's time to break that cycle and to move on and to change.
So, Alexia, without giving away any confidential information, can you just share an example of how you've helped somebody to co-parent with a narcissist, and what kind of results you were able to gain for them?
Well, I will tell you this, is that when I do it, there's something that is called restoration therapy. Mm-hmm. And it is typically when we do it, usually the courts or the attorneys will request it. But it's typically when one parent has been alienated. And they may choose alienation because there's different types of narcissism. Sometimes when it's so bad that they just don't even want to see anybody else again, or maybe the child has chosen to go with the narcissistic parent. It's the other parent trying to meet. So in times like this, what I have done, and to give you an example, I had a case where the child hadn't seen the father for 2 years. And it was a situation they didn't want to. The child was traumatized and didn't want to see the father. And the only memories that they have are negative things of them physically and verbally fighting, and the words that they heard towards the mother this child the child was 10 years old. So for all of their little life, and they were scared. And I was able to, what I do is I segment out everyone. I will meet with each person separately before I bring in any child. And I meet with the child first. And to hear and have them to be able to, talk and to say the fears and to see if things can be able to be restored and to get better and to be the voice for them, whether it be in court or otherwise, is amazing to me, because many people don't have that voice, and they need to have that voice, because children are, I call them the silent victims. And regular divorce, where a divorce, which is when people choose not to be, that it didn't work out for them, is one thing. But when you go on and you have a situation like this, where there's, consistent, anarchy within the relationship, and people don't know how to be able to effectively communicate and may never, we have to learn to be a voice for the children that may not even know how to let that voice come out.
As a reminder, ladies and gentlemen, my guest today is psychotherapist Alexia McLeod, and who has so far very eloquently addressed the topic of co-parenting with a narcissist. Now then, Alexia, you've shared some great insights so far, so let's just flip the script, as they say, and talk a little bit about you. Please.
Oh,
yeah. Why
that's
not?
One of my favorite topics.
Yeah,
how about that?
Please. Yeah, go ahead. And I mean, nobody goes to bed at night and then wakes up in the morning and says, "Hey, I'm going to be a psychotherapist." There's always a long meandering path to where one finds himself today. So please go ahead and share a little bit about your story. What was it that led you or even inspired you to become and do what you do today?
I truly believe that this is the field that I was intended, that God put me right here to come do. And it goes back to even in high school before I started thinking about what I wanted to do yet. And I think I took a class and I loved it. And I went to college and I did this, but as going along, just seeing the way that I can be, I call it like the key in the door to impact lives, to assist in impacting people's lives has been the best for me. I started my practice I've been doing this for God. I think I'm so young and hot, but geez Louise, I've been doing this for 24 years.
Wow.
But I started my practice in 2012 and it has been amazing ever since. And I think due to like the passion that I have in assisting people in areas that couldn't otherwise, sometimes people feel helpless, like there's no place else to go. I am remarried, but I'm divorced from a total and utter narcissist. And you know what, back then I had no clue of really, even with your education, sometimes just like they say, doctors can't diagnose. I'm like, I am one of those helpers. It's just, I want to help fix him. I want to help to see, and I tell you what, and I divorced with my baby. When I divorced, she was 2 years old. And it became a real passion for me. I took a lot of time off. I think every therapist should. Time off from working in this category for some years. Obviously, I did my job and I was a psychotherapist. But when it came down to people that were coming to me back then, people didn't know what narcissism meant because that was, back before the word became popular. But it's when I got to a point where I knew that I could use this to be a voice for women and for children, it became something that I spoke. I travel around and I speak on narcissism and co-parenting, effective divorce, marriage, and that is something that is a passion for me because anything in life, we experience things in life, and if somebody tells me their life has been flawless, then go more power to you. But I can give so much power to people in this world that have gone through something that has been devastating, life-changing, traumatic. And they can pick themselves up after doing reevaluations of themselves because a great question that we have to ask is, how come I fell into a relationship with a narcissist? Why did I? And people don't like to hear, we don't like to do a lot of self-reflection, but it's important. One of your first questions was, what are some signs? How do we know? And the fact is that initially we don't, but we have to be able to separate what is, my love for this person or my desire to see them as a better person versus my desire to be the person that I am intended to be. And is this person taking that away from me? Because it is with narcissists, it's over complete control and power. And we have to be able to take that power back. And it doesn't mean that you turn into the narcissist. What it means is that you know that you deserve a great relationship. You deserve to be able to, live this life without being accused all of the time unduly. You deserve to be able to live fruitfully. And, with me, my passion has continued to be able to do this and be successful in my practice, and very happy to be on here. Let's Talking Divorce.
I mean, it's got to be so difficult, so challenging divorcing a narcissist. And once you recognize that you're living with a narcissist, because it's like fighting an invisible enemy, isn't it? Nobody can see the cuts, nobody can see the bruises, but psychologically you're being beaten up every day.
It would be easier to have physical wounds than the emotional, because the emotional takes much longer to heal. And if I tell you that the majority of people that have divorced a narcissist may not have even recognized until years later that they were with a narcissist, because you are, believe this is that when you're in it, it becomes your norm. It becomes, and then you question yourself. You've been told all this time, all these things that you're doing wrong, and why, everything that's wrong with the narcissist was your fault. And you have to be able to turn that around and say, use logic and say, no, it's not. It's not. And it takes time, and it's a lot of therapy a lot of times, but it takes time to be able to do that internal work to be able to really restore yourself to where you need to be.
Alexia, imagine, let's say, a Monday morning, and your alarm clock goes off. I don't know whether you use an alarm clock, because I don't like to wake up alarmed. I like to wake up in a peaceful mode, right? But but let's assume it's 6 a.m. and the alarm clock goes off, and you have a full day's work ahead of you, helping the people who you help. How does Alexia feel on a day like that?
You know what? This is just about every day for me. But I tell you what, I'm very big on self-care. Mm-hmm. So even though my alarm does go off, it goes off at 5, because I start the day with working out and making sure that, my endorphins are going and I'm feeling good. And, that's a thing that I'm doing for myself. I'm married. I have 2 kids. One's in college. One's still here in middle school, but I have to make sure that in everything that I do, I am doing it well for them. I'm doing it well for them, and I can do it better for them if I take care of them as well. So, I always know every single day what is ahead of me. Mm-hmm. What's ahead of me when it comes to seeing my patients and everything else like that. But even more so, it is, I step back. I know that I cut off at a certain time of the day. I make sure that I have my little lunch. You have to make sure that you take care of yourself as well, so that you can carry through.
What do you actually get from working with your clients? How important is that for you?
I tell you, I think I get more out of working with my clients than they get from working with me, right? Because it is so empowering and just amazing to see the transformation that can happen with people that come into me so broken. And I tell you, broken, and they feel as though broken and hopeless. And every single week I see them, picking up. And then I hear them like when we start to do the therapy, like a month, let's say if it's a month in, and they're using words that I would say, when they did this, I felt like, and they use like a word, right?
Right,
They'll, they start to really, they're starting to change. You're starting to see them smile more, and to know that life is a precious thing, and it can be restored. But we have to be able to know that it can be restored and be able to be willing to really give the time in order to concentrate on ourselves. We'll give so much to other people much of the times, but how often do we actually do that to ourselves? And, for me to be able to see them give to themselves in a way that is going to be life-changing for them in a positive way, it is like the best gift that I could ever have.
If there's somebody who's listening in right now and they find themselves in the situation where they're considering hiring a professional like yourself, what are some of the things that they should look out for?
What I would say is that when looking for a professional like myself, you're looking for therapy, you want to look for somebody that is recommended. Somebody, I'm not just talking about like, going to, I don't know if you guys use Yelp over there or whatever, but you want to be able to go on and ask people, have you used this person before? Even, try them out. Remember, you have to have a bond with your therapist in order to be able to tell them I always call myself the little black diary, right? So if you're going to be telling me all the things that are in your little black diary and I'm keeping that for you, you have to feel comfortable as well. But it's both sides. You have to like them. So looking for personality wise, if they're great, not good, but if they're great, do they specialize in what you're looking for? Is that something that they've done before, and how often do they do? Go in with a list of questions if you'd like, because a good therapist is going to receive that. Are they a great listener? Not just a talker, because in therapy, it's you talking the majority of the time, and they're given constructive feedback when needed, right? But it's a time to really be able to put that together. And also, like after, as you're going through the sessions, do an evaluation. How is this working for me? Are they asking you that question as well, too? Are they asking you to do a self-evaluation and ask you how therapy is going for you? Because this is an important thing that you're investing in for you.
You know something, Alexia? You are just so good. I think I'm going to file for divorce so I can just be your client. All right? You recommend that?
Who would be the narcissistic one? Huh? I'm going to tell your wife. See, you're not going to say you. You're going to say her, right?
There we go. Caught with my hands down. All right. But anyway, listen, I could sit here and talk with you all day, but unfortunately we are coming towards the end. So if there is somebody who wants to know more about divorcing a narcissist, co-parenting with a narcissist, whatever the case may be, and they want to connect with you, how would they do that? One, what's the best way to find you? And two, what will actually happen when they do? Because quite often I interview people and they say, you can get me at www.com, blah, blah, blah. But then the listener doesn't really know what's going to happen on the back end of that. Am I going to be sold to? Is she going to drag me to the back of her office and hit me over the head with a Fred Flintstone club and take all my money out of my handbag? So please tell me, how can they find you? And then what will happen when they do?
Well, first, what I am going to tell that you can actually call me directly. If you are in the UK or out of the country, then I'm also going to give you my website because it's cheaper and I'll call you back. How about that? So my phone number is 561-835-5787. And I can also on my website be reached at www.alexiamcleod.com. And that's MCLEOD, because I know that it's spelled many different ways by many different people. But what you can expect when you call me is this same personality. My focus is on you and you restoring yourself. And that's it. So I invite people. Sometimes people will call me and they'll be like, I'm so happy that you gave me so much time on the phone. I want for you to feel comfortable with me before you even meet me in my office. And obviously, I do teletherapy too for those that don't live in the area, and I do the same thing. It's so important for me to have that comfort zone and for you to know that you're picking the right therapist. And there's times that I'll say, how do you feel that this is going? Because I want to make sure that you feel as though it's productive, because this is about you investing, whether you use me or somebody else. So I look forward to hearing from all of you.
Wow, we're out of time, and I just feel like we're just beginning to touch the tip of the iceberg. However, we do have to go. So You have been listening to, ladies and gentlemen, the lovely psychotherapist, Alexia McLeod. Thank you so much for sharing so generously with us today, Alexia. You have certainly demonstrated that you are a true educator and advocate for your client's success. So thank you.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
You are so welcome, my dear. And I'd also like to take a moment to say a huge, gymongous thank you to you. Yes, our listener. Without you, we wouldn't have anybody to talk to and be sat here twiddling our little thumbs. So thank you for taking your time out of your busy day to join us on what I can only describe as an insightful and informative conversation with one of the leading psychotherapists in Wellington, Florida. Again, her name is Alexia McLeod. Make sure you do check her out. Check out her website. If there's one thing that I'm absolutely sure of after listening to Alexia today is that you're going to be in good hands and in a safe, and that's the most important thing, a safe place to get started. So that's it for today, folks. Again, my name is Stuart Andrew Alexander, and we'll be back shortly with some more leading divorce professionals in this, our series of Let's Talk Divorce Conversations. So until then, take care. Have a great day, and always remember, love your children more than you hate each other. Bye for now.
Thank you for tuning in to Impact Makers Radio. To listen to all past, present and future industry thought leaders and trendsetters, visit us at impactmakersradio.com.